The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everybody. This is Frank Melville. I'm the president of PhoneSuite, and I am very excited today to be announcing the launch of our latest product, the PhoneSuite Series2 V.IP. And V.IP stands for VoiceWare Integrated Platform. VoiceWare Integrated Platform because it's driven by VoiceWare. Let's get started on this. This is not an educational session or a deep dive into VoiceWare. We are really just launching the product. Before we get going, let's look at a little bit of this webinar housekeeping. You all have on the right side of your screen somewhere either a control panel with this orange arrow or just the orange arrow. And if you click the orange arrow, it will either open or close this box. And the only thing you need to know about this is if you have a question, you can type it in this lower box down here. I won't be getting the questions immediately, but toward the end of the presentation, if there are any questions, I will be answering them. So feel free to type a question into this lower area here anytime you happen to have one. So let's get started. We are announcing this new product release with lots of fanfare and a lot of anticipation. We are extremely excited about this product and what it can do for the hospitality industry. It is a major step forward for us based on our existing product line and where the hospitality industry is going. So here it is. It's the PhoneSuite Series2 V.IP. And it is now shipping. For those of you who have been anticipating or awaiting the availability of the product, it is now shipping. You can order these. You can price them if you're an end user and you'd like a quote on a PhoneSuite Series 2. Once you know a little bit more about what it can do, feel free to contact us, and we'll have contact information at the end of the session. So this announcement webinar, it is going to explain a little bit of our Series 2 design philosophy, and we are also going to examine a little bit of the Series 2 architecture. But one of the things we will not do is we'll not be giving a typical sales pitch. We want this to be informational only in those two items that listed above, and we're not going to deep dive into details. We can talk to you offline if you need some more details on it, and soon we'll have a detailed specification sheet available for you as well. So let's get going. Let's look into the design of the PhoneSuite Series 2 by looking at our existing product line and lining it up against the U.S. hotel chain scale. Now, there's a lot of information on this chart. Please don't get bogged into it. What I want you to see over here is the chain scale column, starting at the top with luxury and going down to economy, and then unaffiliated in the count of properties as of the middle of last year in each category. And there were of hotel rooms, about 4.9 million hotel rooms as of April 30th, 2013. The unaffiliated probably distributes among the chain scales, economy through luxury, about evenly with these percentages. But the thing I want you to look at is luxury through economy and the room count. And what we did back 15 years ago is we released a product called the PhoneSuite 64 that really fit the small economy hotels, and that's this number here. But it only fit up to 64 rooms, so we came out with a PhoneSuite 112E, which moved us up into mid-scale and also picked up some of the economy properties that had more than 60 rooms, up to about 400 rooms. And if you look at this chart, that leaves a big chunk of this untapped by PhoneSuite. And we really want to get into the rest of the market here, obviously. And as we thought about our next product line, we were thinking about what do we need to do in order to take everything we know about hospitality and telecommunications and what hotels want in a phone system and develop a new product that will bring us into the entire industry, all of the chain scale. And at the time we started investigating this, we started to learn that the big hotel chains were pushing for hosted IP PBXs. This chart at the left-hand side, please don't try to understand it. Please don't get too deep into it. But this chart is not by us. This is from a large national hotel chain, one of the top probably 5, maybe top 3, in a recent request for proposals from PBX manufacturers that basically states we want the hotel's phone system architecture to be voice over IP based, probably hosted, and the equipment architecture to look on property to look like this. This is a mess. It's not a bad mess, but it's a mess because they are taking all of the PBX components and separating them out into individual pieces of equipment. So they want it to be an IP PBX. They want to be able to do SIP trunking. That's great. They also, I don't know why I'm not advancing here. There we go. They want a LAN to be built separately for the voice part of the system on the property level. They still are going to need FXS gateways, a lot of them maybe, if you want to drive all the old analog phones. And we did learn from talking to our actual customers that analog guest room phones were very important to them. And they wanted local failover if the internet goes down. So, okay, we're going to base our system on a IP PBX, a TCP/IP LAN-driven PBX, but gosh, if it goes down and we lose our LAN, we need something to take over. So they want a local failover. And then, of course, now that you have removed serial ports and the typical PBX hardware from the equation, now you have to reintroduce serial ports, and so you need PMS interface converters that convert IP signals, TCP/IP, into serial. And all of that goes into this equation along with a FXO gateway for 911 failover in case someone dials 911 and the network is down. Wow, but they want this. They're still telling us today they want all this. And we're not someone to tell them that they're crazy. I think the future is going this way, but they're not all sort of thinking this through completely clearly. So we knew this. We learned from that experience in actually using our own VoiceWare product to install some systems like this, that this is what the PBX rack, once you convert to voice over IP with all these individual gateway components, this is what the rack looks like. You got a bunch of, down here at the bottom, you've FXOS gateways and FXO gateways to convert the voice over IP or SIP signaling into analog. You've got like a 911 server, something to serve up web pages for configuration. They have a separate server for ACD, a separate server for voicemail, and another server even to do their call center reservations. Now, wouldn't it be nice if you didn't have this huge mess? And just think of the power draw. Each one of these things has its own power supply, and each one of these is its own point of failure. So we learned all that. We gathered all this information. And we knew that, number one, we must meet whatever the needs and requirements are of the upper, mid-scale, and the upscale hotels. It may be a bit before we get into luxury, but we know that we can do what upper, mid-scale, and upscale hotels need, a majority of that chart that we looked at. We also know that hotels, the actual hotel owners, still want to drive analog phones, and in fact, the hotel chains that had been pushing SIP phones in the guest room have come back off of that some as well. And so even they are saying, yeah, I guess analog in the guest room is still going to be around for a while. And some phone lines, too, including not just T1 PRI, but a couple of analog lines at least for failover for 911 and emergencies. We also knew that the chains, and some owners even, but the chains especially, were pushing VoIP and SIP, and they still are today. Virtually every chain we talk to that does weigh in on what kind of technology they want their hotels using for PBX and voice says we want VoIP, we want SIP, we will want hosted as well in the near future. And then we also learned from doing it ourselves and from looking at what some other people have done that building your own, even if you're a professional, if you're a VAR, if you build LAN and networking systems for a living, that it's a little bit messy. And you saw from that slide that well, by the way, I meant to mention on that slide, that's about a 120-room hotel that you saw there. Imagine if you had a 400-room hotel, all of the gateways and gear you'd need for that. So what did we do with all this? Well, we created the PhoneSuite Series2 V.IP. And the Series 2 is basically, it's a VoIP server. It runs VoiceWare, but it's a VoIP server that will drive up to 240 analog station ports, so guest rooms and common areas, and also up to 26 analog trunks with a T1 PRI option on some of those trunks, but you can't do 26 analog if you use the T1 PRI option, but it does have a T1 PRI option, but it's all in a single cabinet, and that's the beauty of this. All of those things are in a single cabinet. And oh, by the way, it's powered by VoiceWare, which has been out a number of years and is really catching attention of the industry. VoiceWare can drive the Series 2, yes, but it can also drive that mess of gateways that you saw on the rack, and it can also drive a 100% SIP system where you only have a VoiceWare server and your standard PoE data switches to drive SIP phones. It is also daisy chainable. So if you have a 800-room hotel, you can throw 4 VoiceWare Series, or excuse me, PhoneSuite Series 2 cabinets together. They're still powered by a single VoiceWare brain or server, and they all run together. And the best thing, perhaps, is that the PhoneSuite Series 2 will operate as a standalone PBX if you lose the LAN or lose the server. What does that mean? If you look at all that equipment in the rack, or if you look at your internet connection, or look at the main point of failure, a router, say, or a main switch in your LAN, if any of that fails, in that other scenario, the PBX server rack with all the third-party gear in it, you're going to lose the ability to make phone calls, period. With the PhoneSuite Series 2, if your LAN fails, if you lose your internet access, or even if the VoiceWare server component fails, the system will fall back into a standalone TDM PBX mode. Guests can still dial 911 or dial 0. You'll want one analog phone at least near the front desk, but you can still make any analog-to-analog call in the system, even if the entire LAN is down. And that's a very important and very powerful aspect of the PhoneSuite Series 2. So there you have their design philosophy. Let's take a little bit of a closer look at the actual architecture. And these are our artist drawings from when the system was in design, and they look a little bit better. They serve our purpose a little bit better than photos, although you will see some more photos. So the PhoneSuite Series 2 cabinet is basically just, it looks like an old PBX cabinet, and it is not a PBX. It is a voice over IP PBX with analog interface, but it's a big open cabinet where you start throwing cards in. And here we see on the right-hand side, I've just added in not only the VoiceWare server card, but also the TDM processor card, which manages all of the analog ports. So these two talk to each other, and this card talks to all of your analog ports. Here are up to 10 24-port surface mount modern FXS cards, or analog station port cards. So each drives 24 ports. There are 10 of them for a maximum of 240. And then there are the 2 open slots here are for your analog trunk ports or your T1 PRI card. And when full, or when you connect the headers onto the station cards, there's a tray here at the bottom, and they can go through the tray out the back so that they go against the wall very nicely. One thing that's not part of the presentation but is a nice part of this architecture is you now have one power supply driving what could be up to 14 different devices or 14 different pieces of equipment in a rack, all in one cabinet. And the power savings on this is enormous. It's extremely low power consumption compared with the approach of using a whole bunch of gateways. And let's just take a look at what an actual photo looks like of a running Series 2. That you see that differently from our original artist drawings, the cabinet itself is a nice blue color. It sets us apart from some of the other systems out there. It lets you know that that's a PhoneSuite Series 2 in there pretty quickly, even though the cover says it on it. And you can see these are 10 actual station cards, 1 analog trunk port card with 12 trunks on it, 1 T1 PRI card, the TDM processor card, which is controlling all of this side, including, by the way, 2 free analog trunks. So even if you're going to do SIP trunking, we'll give you 2 free analog trunks as part of the base system, and you can use those for 911 failover, even though you're using mainly SIP trunking for the building. And then finally, the VoiceWare server card at the very end over here. And then the power is in this little open area over here. So that is it, and that is the PhoneSuite Series 2. We're extremely excited about this product. We're extremely excited not only that it's more modern technology, that it brings us into the next couple of notches in the hotel chain scale, but also that it folds in what everybody is talking about today, and that is a voice over IP-based system. And if you look at all of the IP PBXs designed for a hotel out there today, you cannot beat VoiceWare. VoiceWare we created several years ago, designed again specifically for hospitality, designed to be a software engine that drives a hotel, and we are able to do things that no other company is doing right now with VoiceWare. Here is one last little graphical image showing the ears on it. The system can be rack mounted. It can also be wall mounted, and it can be just put rubber feet on the bottom and have it sit on a table if you want to do that, for the few who will still want to do that. The biggest thing here, and the point that I was trying to make earlier, and just to drive it home, is that all of this gear that's in the hosted PBX diagram that this big chain is put out there, all of the telephony gear that's been split out is now recombined into one cabinet, so that not only are you saving money on equipment, not only are you saving money on electricity and heat, obviously, but also you are ensuring, or you're adding a fail-safe so that if anything happens, the system will go into failover mode and operate as a standard PBX. And there you have it. If there are any questions, I'd be very happy to answer them. We hope that you will go to our website, PhoneSuite.com, and take a little bit closer look at the product. Also, you can email sales@PhoneSuite.com or call us on our toll-free line. We'd love to talk to you. Again, it's powered by VoiceWare, and I am going to look for questions here and see if anybody has. And there are questions, and I'm having trouble seeing them for some reason here. Pull this out. Forgive me here. Technical difficulties. I have one sold. Send me one. Can you combine cabinets for more ports? Yes. Theoretically, you can combine any number of cabinets. The limitation will only be the bandwidth on the LAN that connects the cabinets together, because they talk to each other through standard Ethernet, on a standard LAN. Theoretically, right now we are comfortable with 4 cabinets running together. To get much bigger than that, we probably want to pull the VoiceWare server out of the first cabinet or the master cabinet and use a much more powerful, larger external server. I know that goes against the all-in-one and everything powered by one power supply, but theoretically we could go 10, we could go 100. The limitation would only be the bandwidth of the LAN that you're running it on, and each cabinet needs a couple megs when operating at full capacity. Let's see, any other questions here? Do you have marketing information on the website? Howard, I don't know if you want to unmute, or I can unmute you and you can address where we are on the website. But yes, I know the pages are up there. They just haven't been released or to the public, or they weren't as of yesterday, but perhaps they are today. If they're not, they will be very, very soon, and they may be. Also, we have obviously reseller tools, and the brochure is about to be printed. Any chance for training in Florida? That we did 10 years ago. So we are training on VoiceWare, because VoiceWare is the complex piece of this puzzle. You need to be and that's a good question. If you're a reseller, we have resellers and end users on this call, but if you're a reseller, you need to get VoiceWare certified. You cannot purchase PhoneSuite Series 2, even though it's a big analog array. It's driven by VoiceWare. So you need to be VoiceWare Series 2 certified. We do courses here monthly. We also do roadshow courses for groups that get together and want to have, or larger companies that want to have training on their site. See, there are a lot of questions. Can you daisy chain?
Frank,
yes, we
this is Howard. Can you hear me?
Hey, yes. Go ahead.
Frank, I want to let you know that the Series 2 VoIP is on the website under Solutions. It's the first entry right below it, so it's available as we speak.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Howard. Can you daisy chain again? Where is the power supply? Is there a picture of the power supply? The power supply is inside of the cabinet. I don't think we have a picture of it, but it is not a separate power supply card, and we have had that question asked. As of right now, this first version, it is not a separate power supply card. Hey, Frank, can you tie several properties together? Okay, that's a voiceware capability, and the answer is yes. You can tie several properties together. Voiceware, again, that's the engine driving it. It has nothing to do with these cabinets. In fact, if you wanted to, you could put in a Series 2 driven by a voiceware and use that same embedded voiceware server that's in the Series 2 to drive another hotel, and that hotel could have SIP phones or gateways or another Series 2 at it. That is a voiceware issue, but yeah, we absolutely can tie properties together with voiceware. Can you have an off-site cabinet? I think it just answered that. Yeah, you can. Obviously, having an off-site hosted voiceware instance is completely doable, but having an off-site cabinet for analog ports is obviously not practical because the purpose of the cabinet is to get close to the phones and drive them analog. But yeah, you could have a cabinet off-site and be driving other gear with it. Can you link to a second site using the 112E or voiceware? There is a link from voiceware to the 112E cabinet. It's our legacy link, and it'll actually even drive Mitel equipment. But again, theoretically, it can do it. Does it make sense? I don't know. But this is a voiceware question again, not a Series 2 question. So WAN on 150 MPS, I think you meant megabits per second, Mbps, 150 megabit. So theoretically, you could have 75 cabinets. Theoretically, that would eat up all that bandwidth. Obviously, that isn't really practical, but yeah, the bandwidth requirement is about 2 megabits streaming, by the way, per cabinet. Base number of rooms per cabinet is what you decide. I think it's 200, 220 maybe. Oh, the lowest, sorry. If the question is meant to be the lowest number, well, there's 24 ports per card. We don't think, even we at PhoneSuite don't believe it's really practical to put in a PhoneSuite Series 2 price-wise against gateways if you're just doing 20, 40 rooms. Now, management and hotel ownership may disagree with you because of the failover capability, but price-wise, it's going to price out more expensive than gateways with voiceware using a Series 2 with voiceware if it's just 20, 40, maybe 60 rooms. Somewhere around 80 or 100 rooms, you cross over a line where voiceware becomes less expensive than cabinets. I don't know if you ever cross over a line where voiceware in the Series 2 becomes less expensive than a 112E, say, but of course you've got a completely different system and a completely different engine behind it. Come to Florida, it's 80 degrees. Okay. How about console, browser, console? Yeah, it is driven by voiceware, so the console is the voiceware browser console. So this is a voiceware-driven system. There is no old 64-style or 112E-style hardware console. There's no touchscreen console, but the voiceware browser console is really similar to our touchscreen console. We've just separated it from the hardware, so you can drive it on a laptop. You can drive it on a tablet. We've, at trade shows, walk around with an iPad that's running the browser console to do answer, transfer, look up guests, etc. Is this meant to be a replacement for the 64 model? No. It is not meant to be a replacement for the 64 or the 112. It's a little bit more expensive, designed for sort of the next niche of hotels, upper mid-scale and upscale hotels. However, that we are running into some mid-scale hotels that do want the voice over IP and some of the features that voiceware offers. And really, it's the engine that's driving the two that is the biggest differentiator, that plus the consoles probably, because both of them handle the analog port side of the equation, whether it's the guest room features and functionality operation or the analog trunks. Both the Series 2 platform and our legacy 64 and 112 platforms handle those very similarly. It's what's driving it all and what's presented at the front desk in terms of the console, the features, the capabilities, etc. Does it include voicemail, auto attendant, and call accounting? Voiceware does include embedded voicemail, auto attendant, IVRs, ACD, call failovers, find me, follow me, call billing, just like regular PhoneSuite, etc. All is built into regular voiceware, yes. And oh, by the way, there on the server card and in any voiceware system, there are 2 embedded serial ports, so you can still interface to the PMS the way they want it. Sorry if my question's out of place. It is not, Ariel. Voiceware compatible with any other systems other than PhoneSuite. Voiceware will drive any third-party SIP-compliant gear. We've tested it against and certified it against a number of different SIP phones. We are using it with at least 4, maybe 5 different gateway manufacturers for those who like FXS and FXO gateways, both on the FXS meaning station and FXO meaning trunk side. And obviously it's not compatible with any proprietary system. So Mitel makes a proprietary hardware VoIP-based system. We're not compatible with that. NEC, other companies, obviously ShoreTel, Cisco, they're closed systems even though they're voice over IP. Yes, they'll drive independent SIP phones, but voiceware won't drive them. And that was our last question, I believe. Oh, will this be covered at the Reseller Summit? Yeah, we're going to have a deep dive into the Series 2 at the Reseller Summit. Also, for those of you who are planning to attend the Reseller Summit, we will have our first ever voiceware, not Series 2, but voiceware sales training, and that will occur on Wednesday at 2 o'clock. It's I know before the summit officially opens, but there will be a 2-hour voiceware sales training session, and Jake and others. There will also be an introduction to the Series 2 section by Dr. John, who is its inventor and creator, with us helping him out, and that will be about 15, 20 minutes. Is there a wireless component or compatibility with alternate vendor wireless handsets? Yes. In fact, we've certified voiceware, and again, we're talking about voiceware, the engine that drives it, so the Series 2 or any other voiceware-based system is compatible with wireless handsets as long as they're SIP compliant or they are standard analog. And at the Reseller Summit, you'll see Uniden, who has a really cool SIP base station decked solution where one base station can drive up to 8 decked wireless phones. And if you put these base stations around the property like you would an access point, you can roam the property all you like. But the standard wireless SIP phones also, it is compatible with those. I think that is it. So that went longer than I thought, but that's probably because of all these great questions. And I appreciate everyone coming. Please, if you have more questions, call us, 800-245-9933. If you're not one of our resellers, we're happy to talk to you. We're not a high-pressure sales organization here. You can email sales@phonesuite.com, and one of us will get back to you. And see us at a trade show or come to our Reseller Summit if you're a reseller. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming. Really appreciate your time. And we will see you on the next webinar, or hopefully next week at our Reseller Summit.